What's going on, guys? I hope you're all doing well. For today's video, it's going to be a bit different than my normal loot highlights. Sadly, I ran out of space on my hard drive and it corrupted the first 20 or so runs, which is pretty unfortunate because that's where the bulk of my drops came from. So instead, I'll show you guys the stuff I found and talk about why I chose to do 100 public cal runs, and then we'll go over a few pros and not necessarily cons, but just words of advice. I'll then transition to my final verdict on if this was a good idea or a complete waste of time, and I'll leave timestamps down below in case you're interested. So let's jump in. How I did this series of runs is I would make my title iCow you run - blank, and then I would just start my games as I normally do. It usually took a couple games, but eventually people would start joining, which resulted in games averaging anywhere from 2 to 4 people, and on occasion would bump up to 8. And since I only had a couple hours to play each day throughout the week, I would start over from run 1 until I reached a total of 100 games overall, which took a few weeks. All of this to say, your results may and probably will vary from mine. Alright guys, let's start by talking about some of the pros of running public games. The drop rates increase drastically across the board, especially when your party size and player count reaches those higher end numbers as illustrated here on these charts. If your main goal is to hunt after the high runes, you definitely want to get as many players as you can joining your games. Next up, you get to meet some new people. As an introvert myself, I know it can be hard sometimes to find folks who are like-minded, and if you have a lot of people popping in and out of your games, it's pretty easy to spark a conversation, and it's just a great way to interact with the D2 community. Lastly, for the pros, it's going to be an absolute adrenaline rush. It might just be me, but if you ever find yourself in a full game of cows, it can get really chaotic with drops falling left and right, so you always have to be on full alert, on your toes for those juicy drops. Alright, now for some friendly words of advice, I would definitely start off by saying accept the fact that you will probably have people hijack your cow games with builds that are stronger and quicker than yours. In an ideal run, the people that join you in the cow level would, stick to a group so each person had the opportunity to grab drops. However, in some games, folks would just branch off and clear half or more of the level, which kind of sucked, but that's partly my fault for not having a strong enough build, which leads me to my second talking point, which is to make sure you have a strong enough build. I ran with the Javazon, which is quote-unquote the fastest cow clearing build in the game, which it is if you have the right gear, but since my build wasn't fully spec'd out, I really struggled when games reached above a 5-player count. So I highly recommend you to just have a pretty decked out build before trying this, at least for cows. And lastly here, you just want to have fun. There will be tons of amazing drops dropping during your games, and just know that you probably won't be able to pick up every single item, and that's okay because there's a lot more opportunities in the future, so just have fun with it and enjoy the ride. I'll first take you through all the runes I was able to accumulate during these runs, and it's a pretty awesome haul if I do say so myself. It's a pretty funny story about the Sir rune as well. So I think it was my 3rd or 4th run, I went to town to refill my javelins, and when I re-entered the portal, this rune actually dropped in front of a low-level paladin, and when he tried to go pick it up, there was a small herd of cows next to it that killed him, so I just ran over, stole it right from under his nose. I kind of felt bad, but that's just how games go sometimes. And these 2 gold runes were, I actually dropped both of these while playing, or while waiting for people to join my game. So I luckily didn't have to fight for any of these 2, which is pretty cool because, if you combine these, that's already a Vex rune. So already we're in a pretty good situation, and these are 2 that were pretty awesome to find. So there's one more item on here that does have a pretty cool backstory, and that would be this guy right here. My first Maras in D2R. This one was pretty freaking awesome when I found it, and it was actually on my last run of that play session, which is run 20. This was just a game. There's a few other people in my group, and we were just running around popping chests, and this unique amulet dropped, and I was fortunate enough to pick it up. And when I identified it, I really couldn't believe my eyes. This is like the best amulet I've ever found in D2R, so I was so pumped to actually have that and have a pretty good item to include in this video. So already off the bat, it's quite an amazing haul. Okay, next we'll go over the bases I found during these runs. So we actually found quite a good amount. So we'll just start from the top here. We found a couple that had perfect enhanced defense, and this one already rolled with 3 sockets. This one unfortunately can only roll with 4 sockets, but that's still a pretty good find, which I can, you know, probably sell for a Malrune or something like that. And the rest of these, this is pretty cool. The rest of these are not very special, but I can probably sell it for, you know, a pole or something like that. And for these are pretty awesome. I think this is probably my best weapon I found so far. It's not ethereal, which is unfortunate, but not a bad haul. I still need to socket these, and if they come out with 4 sockets, then I should be able to sell them for a pretty good price. And then lastly, we just have a couple shields here. This one, you know, one off perfect enhanced damage, but that's alright, or enhanced defense. I can still socket that with 4 sockets and make a spirit out of it. And then this one already rolled with 4 sockets. And yeah, so that covers all the bases we found. It's actually a pretty good amount of bases. A lot more dropped, but I wasn't able to pick up all of them. So these were the ones I was able to snag. Not bad. Okay, so finally we'll jump into these charms. I was pretty impressed with the amount of skillers that dropped, and we'll just go over a few. We got an offensive paladin skiller, a cold sorcerer skiller, my favorite, the elemental plus life skiller, and then a bow and crossbow skiller. The rest are just ones that weren't as valuable, but still wanted to mention them. And we just got a couple small charms here, nothing too crazy. And then this large charm, which I thought was pretty cool. I think it's not the highest roll you can get on those 2 life and resistance rolls, but not too shabby. So yeah, that basically goes through everything that we found. Pretty awesome. I would say, taking everything into consideration, I would definitely recommend either joining or creating your own public games to magic find in, and you definitely won't regret it. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in patch 2.4. See you later.